This is DSP, and I am the Digital Headhunter. Digital Headhunters are the new breed of recruiter who don't belong in three-piece suits and prefer freedom and impact more than expensive business cards. We're the misfits who play chess in corporate America, and yes, HR is a four-letter word. We're here to wage guerrilla war against the big-name brands and win. So watch as I scale up my practice, and along the way, I share all my digital marketing strategies, real-life sales techniques, recruitment hacks, and big biller interviews. Welcome to the Digital Headhunter. Hey, what is up, headhunters and executive recruiters? This is David Stephan Patterson. You may know me as DSP. This is the Thrive Daily series for recruiters and how to pivot your business so you can survive and thrive in this recession, or whatever you want to call it. I prefer to call it an economic shift because that's what's happening. The market is shifting and we need to shift with it. We need to be first movers. So I'll be coming out every day to talk about cash management, business development, recruiting, employee management, mindset, even fitness during the lockdown, anything you may need to know to make sure that you are ahead of the game. So before you watch, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified when videos come out. They'll be coming out daily for the time being. Also, there is going to be a podcast. The link is going to be down below. Also, we have a guide. The link will also be down below. So sign up for all of our resources, and most importantly, though, sign up at thrivedaily.io. The link is also down below, and get notified as we release more trainings for free every single day. And with that said, enjoy the show. Hey, what is up, headhunters and executive recruiters, and hashtag the Herc. All right, so this is leadership calls part 2. Okay. Now, as people come on in, I'm gonna have a little bit of a contest for you, and I'll tell you here in a second. I want to let some people come in, and then we'll tell you about that. Okay. Now, in the first call, I spoke primarily about how to get a leadership call. Actually, they're pretty easy to get. Especially nowadays in today's economic environment, we have leaders that are worried about, if the axe falls unexpectedly, if the economy doesn't bounce back as fast as some of the pundits say it will, or if some other pundits are right and it's going to be shitty for a long time. What does that mean for them? Because I will say, it is easier to be an effective and successful leader in a good and a strong economy than it is in a bad economy. Bad economy exposes your weaknesses. And so a lot of these leaders are really concerned. So it's very easy to get leadership calls nowadays. So I'm not going to, belabor the point on how to get them. Go watch the first video. It's on my YouTube channel. It's also in the video section here in the Herc. Okay. All right, so it looks like my sound is still good. For those of you who just joined, I spent a good 20 minutes figuring out the sound on this piece, but now it looks like we have it. All right. So now I want to talk a bit more about the why leadership calls are important and why so many recruiters do not do them. Okay. Now, so let's talk first about how they've been taught for many, many, many years, right? So the way it's typically been taught is this, right? And I've seen this training many, many, many times, from several different people. And it's typically something like this. I'm going to paraphrase, obviously. I'm going to exaggerate it for comedic effect. But it's basically like this, right? You get them on the line and you glad hand them and talk about and about their experience. Right? Glad handing means you tell them what they want to hear, right? Oh, your experience looks great. Oh my gosh, yeah, you've got great experience here and fantastic. Well, you're really something else, Bob. Whatever you say, right? You get their parameters, you get their money, you get the location they want to be in, and yada 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 yada. Then, at a certain point, you transition to talking about the company. We'll talk about the company that you work for. Oh yeah. Well, really, it sounds pretty great there. And then there's the big transition. Well, gosh, Bob, I really would be remiss if I didn't ask. But do you use recruiters there? Golly gee, willikers. See how clunky that sounds? It's clunky because it's obviously a flip, right? And it's pretty harsh, meaning there's no buildup. It's not smooth, it's super clunky, and it's seen as a bait and switch because let's be real, it is a bait and switch. Okay. Because if you spend a call and you glad hand a leader, right, and tell them what they want to hear, and don't give them a critical conversation and add a lot of value in the conversation, because believe me, telling a person what they want to hear in a conversation is not adding value. Okay, so if you do that and not really adding any value, and you really don't intend to do anything with this candidate, but you're looking to get into the company, that is a bait and switch, and I do not like that. It is the wrong way to do business, 100%. So believe me when I tell you this, what I teach here is not a bait and switch. This is a lot smoother and a lot more nuanced, because what we're going to be doing here, as you'll be learning on this call, is how to basically put them on their heels, crack them open. May not make sense now, but trust me, it will, right? Put them on the heels, crack them open, get them into a real conversation at a metric shit ton of value during that call. And with grace and nuance, well, maybe not grace, but with some nuance, smoothly transition and put yourself in a position with a soft close to where they hopefully see value in working with you and how it's going to help themselves, right? As opposed to it being clunky. Because if you feel it's clunky, they feel it's clunky. If you feel it's a bait and switch, they feel it's a bait and switch, right? And the reason why I think it's been taught that way is because I've seen a lot of, look, I've been in the recruiting game for 20 years. I came from MRI originally. Well, actually, technically in 97, I actually started my career with Labor Ready, doing temporary day labor staffing, then Kelly staffing, then Kelly services, and then MRI right around 2000, 2001. So, 20 years of search experience. And so I've seen all the training and been through a lot of it. And there's a lot of scripts, and scripts are fine. Recruiters love scripts, but scripts are kind of like a crutch or a Band-Aid. And in fact, I'll show you exactly what I mean in this, because I'm going to have a script for you guys as well that is used as a crutch, right? But most scripts, right, as a good script should be designed to do very specific things. Like the script itself should be nuanced. A lot of scripts, we read a script and we're like, oh man, that script sounds cool. We like it because it sounds good or sounds cool. And we want to think of ourselves as this, the type of thing that we would say. But unfortunately, one size doesn't fit all, right? And you got to take a script, you got to modify it, and for you and for your audience. And usually, most times, we actually don't even use the script anyway, right? And so we kind of fumble around. So what I want to teach you is a framework first, always. Framework first, follow the framework. Use a couple scripts here and there as crutches to get over hump, knowing that you need to, as quickly as possible, get rid of the script, okay? And so I'll explain what that means as we move into it. But first, though, I do want to, let me see if I have any comments here real quickly. Chuck says they are usually done talking if I do that. Are you talking about the flip, Chuck? I wasn't sure. But yes, it's so let's talk about why you should be getting leadership calls. So obviously the first reason is pretty obvious. You can flip it, right? I mean, look, at the end of the day, again, VP, they have, or hiring leader, really, they get bombarded with calls from recruiters all the time, right? And people are motivated by their own self-interest. Every leader has their own personal story, their own personal vision for their career, their own frustrations, their own pains. And if there's a recruiter or a headhunter or what have you that can solve that, can provide opportunities, potentially, they're going to want to talk to you, right? If you're just trying to sell them on, hey Bob, hey, we're fill in the blank specialist too. We got 20 years experience. We're really passionate about our client success. Well, when they hear that 10 times a day, it kind of falls on deaf ears, and it's annoying, right? You might be the best recruiter in the world, but if you're saying the same thing as everybody else, then it doesn't mean anything, right? And this leads into the second reason why leadership calls are so important, because it gives you an inner look, or a very deep look into the inner psyche of the people that you're selling to. You see, in sales, in recruiting really, but just in sales in general, right? When I talk about sales, I'm talking about, your marketing, your sales, your prospecting. They're actually three different things. Marketing, sales, prospecting, right? Influence, whatever. You need to have a deep understanding of your audience's inner workings, right? And so what I mean by that is, if you've seen my training, right? And I train this a lot in my inner training, in Accelerator. I talk a lot about pain. You may have heard features tell, benefits sell, right? But pain is what moves the needle, because as we all know, if you try to sell features, no one cares about features. They care about benefits, and that's true. But a benefit is the solving of a pain, is the relief of a pain. Now, it also could be the gaining of a pleasure, but reality, 80-90% of our daily activity and decisions are made are really running from pain. When you really look at its core, and that's just baked into our reptile DNA over billions of years, right? It's the reason why we're alive today. Okay. So with that said, if everybody is talking benefits, right, then you need to be talking to their pain first, because that's what gets their attention. For example, everybody teaches about a unique selling proposition. Okay, cool. Elevator pitch. Okay, cool. Everybody's got one. Somebody probably has a better one than you. I talk about pain, right? I talk about pain because if I talk about the pain so well, and they just by me saying, they see that I get it. That tells them a lot more than if I just tell them what the benefits of working with me are, right? And so as an example, real quick before I get back in leadership call, as an example, right? As a let's say in lead generation, if I talk to a recruiter and I say, hey, I help solve lead generation problems. You're not closing enough deals on a monthly basis. The feast and famine, and maybe you tend to, you're not quite sure if you're going to, have billings and cash flow every month. And that could be stressful. That's kind of a decent pain, right? Decent pain. And of course, I'm not talking just benefits. I help you get leads. I'm talking about, hey, I know that lack of leads can cause stress. But now if I say instead, I'm like, you know what? I work with recruiters who, one of their biggest fears is when they come home one day and their spouse sits them down at the dinner table, looks them dead in the eye, and they say, honey, maybe you should find a real job. Oh, yes, I get it. You know what I mean? It shows that I get it, right? Even if you've never experienced that before, it's in our minds, right? And if you're not experiencing that pain, then I can't help you, right? Because we can only sell to somebody if there's a pain. Otherwise, we're going to have to sell on price, and that's it. So anyway, a great way to get that is on these calls, because what's going to happen, and I'll show you how to do it, is when you get in the call, set the right frames initially, put them on their heels, crack them open. It may not make sense now. It will in a bit. Crack them open, really dig in there and find out their deep frustrations and pains. Because keep in mind, if you talk to a VP about your service, they're going to be a little bit close-lipped. They're going to be a little bit like, they're not really going to open up to you. But if you talk to that VP about his resume, guess what? He opens up, right? Now, even then, there's a little hesitancy there. We're going to really crack them open, and I'll show you how to do that, okay? So anyway, that's the next reason, because the best scripts in the world will come directly from the people that you serve. There's they will say things, and you'll write them down. You'll think, oh my God, that's got to go in my script. That's amazing. That's amazing, right? But we don't do that. So you want something that really hits them in the gut. Get the information from these leadership calls. Okay, that's another reason. Third, NPCs. For those of you who don't come from an MRI background, that's going to be most placeable candidate or marketable candidates. I'm not a huge fan of marketing line level candidates, unless maybe they're like salespeople, but marketing like a CIO, or which I'm doing right now, or maybe a VP or director, somebody fairly high level that's really, really good, then that's fantastic. Now, the good thing about these calls is right now it's easy to find an NPC. But if you market a B candidate, well, good luck, because everybody's doing that. But there might be 1 out of 50 that are just stellar. Find that diamond in the rough and market that person, market her. That's going to make the difference, right? So this is going to allow you to screen for that. Okay, that's the other reason. And of course, another reason is practice, because what I'm about to teach you is very similar to a closing call. It's a little bit different, but it follows some of the same principles. And I'm not going to go into that necessarily here, but I will say the more of these that you do, and the more you practice and record and audit your calls, and really work on the nuance and really make it smooth, and then drop all your scripts to make it even smoother. And that way you could be in the moment. What will happen is your closing calls will and your recruiting calls in general will naturally get so much better, right? And then of course, lastly, it just helps build good relationships, right? Because what you're going to be doing is bringing a real value to them, okay? Because there's a lot of value, and we'll talk about this in a second, but there's a lot of value in bringing clarity on a call, right? Bring clarity on a call, right? So, and in fact, I'll go into that for a second, because it's not something I was going to talk about here, but let's go into that, because I don't talk about it much in this group. So clarity, right? Again, if I were to talk to a recruiter, an independent recruiter, and they're frustrated because they're not billing enough, but usually they're not really clear on exactly what's going on. So if I were a salesperson trying to talk to that recruiter, trying to sell them on my service, I can tell them what they want to hear, and I can talk all about all my benefits, etc. But if I just like with a candidate in a leadership call, if I put them on their heels, crack them open, get down to the real matter, and get them to admit about some of the real issues they're facing, that's the underlying cause of what's really happening. Whether or not they actually use my service, I've actually provided a huge value to them. Now, whether or not they take action on it, that's on them. I can help lead them to action, but there's a big service in being able to really expose someone to what's really going on, because we lie to ourselves all the time, right? When you have a VP level candidate, right, who doesn't understand why she can't get a role, because she thinks, I've got 15 years experience leading blood in the blank, manufacturing teams, whatever. I don't know the terms, but, or I'll use them in terms for me, right? So, VP of SAP, I've got 10, 15 years experience with Fortune 500 companies leading center of excellence teams, right? And rolling out globally SAP implementations. Like, so I've got that experience, but why aren't I getting the interviews, or why aren't I getting positions? But they don't realize is, yeah, they may be good, but there's 15 other people with the exact same experience, right? And so when you bring clarity to them in terms of how to really sell themselves, you brought a great value, right? So we'll talk, but it's not an easy call. It's painful, right? It's painful. People don't like to be honest with themselves. You're going to force it, right? So that said, let's go into the call itself. So when you get the call, one of the things I talk about a lot is what's called setting the table. Now, this is important if you are setting up a sales call, a leadership call, whatever. You want to set the table to kind of, in a way, flip a lot of switches before the call. Meaning, so you want to flip the switch that you're an authority. You're going to flip the switch that you are highly professional. You want to flip the switch that you are very exclusive. You want to flip the switch that you're not one to try to earn their business. Right? I hate that phrase. What do I have to do to earn your business? Oh, you can shut the hell up. I'm not interested in anybody that has to earn my business, right? So we're not doing that. We're peer level. We're going to both discuss and see if it makes sense for us both to move forward. Nobody's earning anything here. Okay, that's not a partnership, right? And so you're gonna, and there's a lot of the other switches as well, right? So you want them to recognize that you're not a normal recruiter, that you're ethical, all these different things. You want to flip all the switches as much as possible, right? And also you also want to frame it in such a way where you are not one to be I hate to say it like this, but not one to be trifled with, that you're a professional. Okay. So here's how you do it. So when you set the call up, there's a lot of different ways you can set the table, right? I've got a scheduling funnel that I use. I built through ClickFunnels. I build them for my clients, or my team does. They build them for my tactical clients. I show recruiters how to do it in Accelerator. But basically, you have a funnel, right? They go in and they go to a landing page with the video. They click a button. They go to, say, your schedule once, your Calendly, whatever. They choose whatever option they want: strategy call, leadership call, discovery call, whatever. They pick it, and then it redirects them back to a corresponding landing page for leadership call, landing page for this, landing page for that, right? With another video on what they can expect. That sets the agenda. Thank you for booking a leadership call with me. On our call, we're going to be talking about boom, 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 boom. Okay. Right. It lets them know what to expect on the call. By the way, if you want some additional resources, click the button down below, and maybe there's a resource thing they can use, whatever, right? But you're setting the table. Same thing on a sales call. Exactly. You guys always set the table every time, including maybe, and then now let's say you don't have that. That's okay. Send an email. Hey, I really appreciate you booking a call with me, Bob. So just so you're clear, before we get on the call, we booked it for 30 minutes. On our call, to make sure that you're prepared, we're going to be speaking about, where you're at right now in your career, where you want to be, right? What's working in your career search and what's not working. If I can help you, I'll tell you exactly how I can do so. And if I can't, I want to make sure I'm going to point you in the right direction. Either way, I want to make sure you get as much value as possible out of this call, because we're very good at what we do, but we recognize we're not right in every situation. Now, what does that tell them? It tells them, well, first off, what they're going to be talking about, how long the call is. They're going to be talking about, it's going to basically tell them that you're not just going to try to pitch them. You're not going to tell them what they want to hear. Now, again, this is good for a sales call, good for a leadership call, right? That, if you can't help them, you're going to point them in the right direction and give value in the call, all that kind of good stuff, right? So anyway, and then lots of other ways you can add, you can kind of set the table, having content. If they know your name, I mean, I've been in the SAP space for a long time. My content's everywhere. I advertise. So that has definitely helped me a lot, right? But there's lots of different ways to set the table. But that, at the very least, send an email, send confirmation, send a brochure, send your offer sheet, whatever you got, right? Send us stuff. Okay. Now, when you get on the call, one of the things that I really have been enjoying lately are doing Zoom calls. I've not been enjoying going live with Zoom because it's been kicking me off like every single time, which is why I'm using this new platform here. But what I found is when I just simply ask, hey, so I want to, and I don't ask, or I do, but I kind of say it like this. I say, look, hey, I really prefer to do these via Zoom. I find it's much better to communicate. So do you mind doing a Zoom chat? And actually, now I was surprised when I started doing this. And I started doing this actually before the COVID thing. I started doing this last year, and a lot of people said yes. Now, so even more, right? So do a Zoom if you can, because gosh, the relationship you can build going face to face is huge, right? And the interesting thing is, when I do a Zoom, or when I do a Zoom call, I'm not dressed up. I wear this, right? One of the biggest fears was that, I would be judged with my executive sleeve a couple of years ago, right? A lot of you folks started knowing me before I had my sleeve. And I get interesting comments, but it hasn't affected my business. It's very interesting, right? All the fears that we have in our head that really don't amount to much. So I'm looking forward to getting my second sleeve, because tattooing is a bit of an addiction. Anyway, that being said, so when you get on the call, whether you do a Zoom call, whether you do a live call, one thing you do want to do is record the call, and preferably even transcribe it. Now, there are transcription services like Honeit, Honeit. Honeit is very good as audio. There's other transcription services that you can use on a Zoom call. Track 365 is a free one. It's in beta. I'll drop a link when I'm done here, and you guys can try that out. But anyway, transcribe it, because you're going to want to look at these calls, find out where you lost them, where you got them, what stories you told that worked, stories you told that didn't work. What did they say? You want to really analyze these things, because if you don't analyze it, you're not going to, you're going to, it's going to take a long time for you to get better, right? Now, getting on the call. Let's switch here. So I like about these later training sessions, I can have a drink, Well, I told Elisa, I said, look, long as I'm past 5, I'm good. I'm having a beer. Sorry. So on the call. So what you want to do is, so I like to think of leadership calls in a way kind of like a discovery call, right? And in a discovery call, if you have any search firm owners here, anybody's been on a discovery call, what happens is a sales rep or an SDR hooks you with some sort of interest, maybe through an email or a cold call, whatever, or you reach out because you've heard of a piece of software and you book a discovery call, right? Because they got to go and figure out, well, is this going to be a fit for you in your environment? So a lot of this really comes down to, they're going to ask you a lot of questions, do discovery, and then they're going to come back with a proposal, etc. Now, granted, you're not really going to do a proposal necessarily, but you want to think of this as a discovery call. It helps when you think about it in that way, right? And in a discovery call, you're going to do a few things that to help set this up, okay? Now, one thing a concept I want to share with you that's going to be important for this concept we're going to talk about, okay? And this is the reason why people do things. Remember, I said people run from pain, right? But here's really more of a more nuanced breakdown of that. Is people tend to, always be in a state of mild agitation, right? Meaning, if let's say, and they get pain habituated. So remember, people run from pain, right? Now, if your doctor tells you your cholesterol is sky high, probably for a couple of months, you're going to lay back on the double cheeseburgers with the extra bacon, right? You're gonna eat good until that one time you don't, and the next time, and the next time, and the next time. You know why? Because you've been habituated to that pain in your head, like that's that fear, and then you're back to eating burgers. It's just a human condition. It's what we all do, right? It's the like a frog getting boiled in a pot, as they say, right? It's habituation. So, in order for you to sell that person who's now habituated to their pain of high cholesterol, you've got to make them feel that pain again, even more so. And in that moment, insert your solution. Because at the end of the day, people make decisions emotionally, not logically. They rationalize a lot, with their intellect, but the decision is made with emotion, right? I'm sure if we're all honest with ourselves, you will see that in your own behavior as well, right? No matter how logical we think we are, that's just kind of what do we call it, a patina? I know, but it's just a cover, right, for who we truly are. So knowing this, our goal in any sales call really is to try to highlight the pain. So we're going to ask some very deep questions. In our questioning, we're going to then bring clarity to the pain that they're in, right? And show them that what they're doing right now is not working. The best way to sell somebody on anything is not just to go and do your dance like that 20 years experience, and we're really passionate about our client success. Did I get the job? Or did I get the business? No, right? You want to highlight their pain, show them that what they're doing isn't working, and if your solution will work, if it's different than what they're currently doing, insert that and say, but that's, again, I'm not going to get into the structure of a sales call, but like I said, this is similar to, why I want to at least very briefly just kind of skim over the topic, okay? So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be using our questioning in a discovery fashion to highlight the pain. We're going to wrap it up, and they're going to offer a potential solution, okay? Now, so let's start. So how you want to start these calls off is this. Sorry, I'm just looking at the comments here. Kara, she's actually one of my private clients. She says, she's here. She says, "Get on with it, mofo." Oh man, I could talk forever. I know. Sorry, but I'm trying to give see. Kara knows all my concepts. Some people just see me the first time, and they may not know about the pain. Right? Anyway, let's go on with this. So in the call, when you start the call off, think of it as a discovery call. And in a discovery call, you want to set the agenda, which you did with the setting the table with the email. We also want to restate, right? You're going to set an agenda, and you're also going to get an upfront contract. I'll explain what that is, okay? You're also going to verify the time that they have, so you don't get cut off, okay? And you're going to be setting some frames along the way. Here's what I mean by that. So in the call, "Hey, Bob, I really appreciate you taking the time to book a call with me. Now, of course, we're going to be diving really deep into obviously, where you're at, where you got to where you are, your leadership philosophy, and also where you want to go. What's working for you right now, what's not working. If I can help you, I'll tell you exactly how. If not, I'll point you in the right direction. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure at the end of this call, you and I both have enough information to decide if we want to move forward or not." Now, what have you done there? You have set yourself apart from every recruiter that does not do that. That doesn't do that because they want to earn the business, right? Or they want to impress the VP. No, you impress by not glad handing them, telling them what they want to hear. You impress by being a professional and laying out the exact agenda. Here's what we're going to be talking about. And at the end of the call, and you're also letting them know that you're not just going to sell them, right? At the end of the call, you and I both, right? Notice that you and I both are going to both decide if it makes sense to move forward, right? That means, again, you get an upfront contract. I'm big about upfront contracts. I teach you this a lot on my training, right? They're powerful in almost any conversation you have. Lastly, you say, "And by the way, we booked this call for 30 minutes. So before we start, do you have any hard stops I should know about?" Because the last thing you want is be setting up your transition, and they say, "Oh, I got to go," and then you're stuck. So that's just a little minor thing, but it saved me a lot of times, right? So always set the clock, right? Now, let's get into the call. So there are things that I call waypoints in the call, right? That you want to be hitting along the way. Now, what you want to do is you want to have a clock in front of you and a little sticky note, because you don't want to be transitioning at minute 29 because they're chatty Cathy and you're not strong enough to direct the conversation. So you have a sticky note that says hit this waypoint, between 8 and 10 minutes. And this other waypoint, maybe 15 to 17 or whatever, right? Make sure I transition to blank by 25 or something like that. On any sales call, anything you do, it's always a good idea to do that because it just keeps you on track, okay? Corey here says, I have a lot of clients here. Paul's a client, Pierre's a client, Bill's a client. Oh my God, Corey, these are all clients. Corey Donovan says, "I've been using the upfront contract concept with my kids the past month. It's really helping, especially with homeschool." Dude, this stuff does work with kids. It's amazing. I always joke in my accelerator classes that half these lessons can be used in parenting. But anyway, that said, let's talk about the call. So when you open the call up, you're going to open it normally, right? You're going to open normally and ask the standard questions, although I'll give you a couple of good zingers. But you're going to ask us some standard questions. Now, I will say this before I even get there. Here's how you should approach the call in terms of your mindset and how you come across. There is, and I'll kind of touch on this briefly. I was just speaking about this yesterday with my students. I'm sure you guys have heard about the doctor frame. The doctor frame, right? The doctor frame, which I think is overused. I don't like that word because what people think it means, they think it means asking good questions. That's really kind of like maybe 20% of it, right? So what they do is they get on the phone with a job order, or if it's the a VP candidate, whatever, and they ask their questions and they throw in a couple zingers, right? A couple zingers. And that's taking the doctor frame, asking a lot of questions, okay? Now, I will say this. If you ask too many questions, it could be annoying. right? There's no value in that. Secondly, just asking a couple zingers does not a doctor make. A doctor has an actual what's what I'm looking for, frame, or um, gosh, I can't think of the word here. I'm drawing a blank here. A doctor has a set, I guess you call it frame, or I said persona. That's what I'm looking for. Persona. If doctor has a certain persona, right? Of course they banter initially, but if there's something serious going on, they're start asking questions. Well, let me ask you about this. Do you find that it hurts when you do the thing? Interesting. Write that down. And you're thinking, oh shit, what's wrong? What's wrong with me? What about, and they take control because they have this lower sort of energy and very serious, and they control that shit. That is the doctor frame. So what I find is more valuable, instead of saying take the doctor frame, I say take the alpha frame. I find that works better because then it gets you out of that mindset of just asking zinger questions, right? A good doctor is actually going to ask, banter and all that, but it's going to show authority by asking a really good question. Good question. Shut up. Because how do you get somebody's attention? Lower your voice. Talk slow. Ask your question. And don't talk over, meaning, well, Bob, can you tell me about, do you find that? And then you ask your question, and then you ask again, do you find it's this? Or maybe it's possibly that. Because I tend to see that other clients have the da, 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 and then you're sitting because you're uncomfortable asking a hard question and you're nervous, right? So in fact, it might even be better to do some of these non-Zoom initially, so you can do that, until you get used to asking those questions, the hard questions, right? So, because what's going to happen is a lot of times, and the reason why the alpha frame works really well is because their mind's going a mile a minute. We're all multitaskers, right? They're checking email, or they're talking to you. They're thinking about, what their wife said before they left for work, and it's kind of bothering them. They're like, oh, I'm going to bring it up and whatever. She's been on my case for the last week. What the hell, man? Just because I didn't do the dishes that one night. That shit's in their head, and they're talking to you. They're not paying attention. They're not in the game. So, right, it gets them like in the game, like talking to you, right? So that the alpha frame is a very good way to kind of get them centered on you, right? Now, let's all talk about that. Now let's talk about what you say. So when you go into the call, I always like to start off this call with this question. Now, I do like to start off with a little bit of banter, a little bit of, rapport, go local sports team, really glad they drafted, star athlete, whatever, right? Don't stay on that too long. Banter is always fine. Couple minutes, that's it. Boom, get over it and start the call, okay? So what you want to do is you want to start off with this simple question, right? Depending on how they book the call. Let's start with this question. This is your opening salvo. This is a shot across the bow to see what they say. And then you'll back off a bit and ask normal questions. So here is the question. So why did you take time out of your day to book a call? And really, what are you looking to accomplish? And shut up and see what they say. That's shot across the bow. Because look, let's see, what do they give you? They can give you everything right there or nothing, but it's a great shot across the bow. By the way, if you're on a sales call and they book a call with you, same question. I'm curious, why did you book a call with us today? And as a follow-up, what are you looking to accomplish? Right? Puts them on the spot. Okay. It's a great opening shot. I love it. It's fantastic. And it really sets a frame right off the bat, right? If you do it well. Obviously be friendly about it. Don't be an a-hole, but it's a great opening shot. And then of course, depending on what they give you, you may go in a different direction, but most of the time they don't give you a lot because they're not expecting that type of question, right? Because again, they're not used to that. They're used to recruiters that are glad handing them, right? So next question. So do it in your own words. Tell me what you do. So this is where a lot of people have this misconception that, I've been recruiting in the space. I've been a CFO recruiter for 20 years. I know what CFOs do. Yes, That may be true, but you don't know what that CFO does. And a lot of times our experience, having been in the game for a long time, can actually be one of our biggest weaknesses because we assume too much, right? So I would like to ask, well, so tell me in your own words exactly what you do. Now, if you want to say, now, of course, I've been obviously, and you can, of course, you can also say this. Look, I've been recruiting the SAP space for many years, as you know, but again, everybody has a slightly different role. So let me ask, in your own words, tell me exactly what you do. It's a very open-ended question. I just want to see what they say, so you get a better understanding of their role, right? And of course, you can ask you their standard questions. Tell me a bit about what your situation is. What are you actively looking? Are you not actively looking if they haven't told you yet? What's the situation there, et cetera, right? And you're going to get a sense of some of their career wounds, right? I'm not happy with X, not happy with Y. And of course, if they don't give any of that, we'll talk more about how to get into that here momentarily. Okay. But it's really important to ask, those sort of questions. Now, here's some other questions you can ask. I don't ask these in every call. I'm sorry. Somebody said, had a question that says authority question mark. Paul, if you can expand on that, I wasn't sure what you mean. So now the questions I'm about to give you are not a question you should ask in every call, because if you do that, you'll be on the phone for like 2 hours. But it's good to have a list of zinger questions. Again, a Dr. Frame is not just asking the zinger questions. It's having the right persona, right? That frame, but it's still good to have zinger questions, because a lot of your value comes in is in giving them clarity, right? But you're also establishing your authority by knowing what to ask. So every industry is going to have their own questions, whether it be in, me, I do SAP, it could be in sales, could be, again, you recruit CFOs, et cetera. But things like, I got a list here that I usually go off of. What's your leadership philosophy is one. How do you measure success? Do you have a mentor? Or do you mentor others? How so? What is your mentorship philosophy, right? What leaders do you look up to? Right. And of course, so those are kind of a few sample questions that I like to ask. For example, okay, let's say you go into a new role, right? So you're looking for a VP position with a company that does X, Y, Z. Okay, so give me an idea of what do your first 90 days look like? But if it's your question, but you want to get a sense that you're not just asking surface level questions. Okay, again, things like, would you describe your management style, which is different than leadership style, right? Obviously, what company would you be interested in, or what types of companies? Why would you be interested in those, right? Tell me, how did you get to where you're at now? Like, tell me about the momentum behind your career, right? Now, all these questions kind of lead up to where we're going to now start transitioning. Okay. Now, when I come to talk about a transition, this is where we start to put them on the heels a little bit. So here's how we do that. It's all hot. I'm hot in here. All right. So all right. So sorry, I was just reading the comments here and I got distracted. All right. Transition. All right. So let's talk about getting them on their heels. So here's how you do that. You get someone on their heels by getting them to prove themselves to you. Now, keep in mind, this is a frame that you need to have. This whole shit about whether you're selling to them, whether you're doing a leadership call with them, doesn't matter. This attitude of, what do I have to do to earn your business, Bob? Drop it, because they have the problem, you have the solution. You literally, now maybe you need their money, sure, but get that out of your head. You have the key to their career and their family's happiness. You really do. You need to act like it. Don't be an a-hole and don't lord it, but you need to, again, be on a peer-to-peer level. Okay. So now think about this. If you glad hand somebody, right, and you tell them what they want to hear. Oh, sure. Oh, you look great. Da, 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 da. Maybe they think they're great, but at the end of the day, Doesn't it seem that maybe you tell that to every girl out there? Don't you that to every girl, right? Right? Make them earn it. Make them earn it, right? So this is, kind of like a seduction, if you will, right? As a guy going on a date, you're going to come on too strong. Oh, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. Beautiful. That does not typically work, right? You push and then you pull, then you push and you pull. And you create tension, right? We're going to get into that. So what I like to do is I like to start off here in my transition and say, well, so that's great. Let me ask you this. Obviously, there's always a bell curve in everything, right? So I'm kind of setting this up. There's always a bell curve in everything, right? Out of every 20 people with any skill set, you've got probably 18 that are, varying levels, but they're all usually about the same or similar. You got one that is really bad. They interview very well, but they usually wash out after a few months. There's always that, the bad apple. And you always have the one who is just cream of the crop. Okay. But again, if you look at them on paper, they all have the similar experiences. How do you tell the difference? So I have to ask, right? Because we have limited time and I need to make sure I'm bringing the very best quality to my clients. So I have to ask you, what makes you top of the class? Or you can say cream of the crop, or you can say whatever. Or again, I use different phrases. What's your special sauce? What makes you really unique? Any phrase you use, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But this is where you want to ask them and shut the hell up. And what's going to happen is they typically will give you stock answers. Well, I've got a great ability to, I have a demonstrated ability to successfully implement SAP globally across several countries, or whatever it is, right? Kind of a standard thing they may say in that whatever industry you're in, right? But again, we have to realize that, insert any other person in that with similar level of experience will probably say something similar. How do you really tell the difference? So again, and granted, I know in a real interview process, you can actually get to the root of what makes them special through behavioral interviews and scorecards or working interviews and all these different things. But we're not doing that. We're in a 30, 45-minute conversation. And at the end of the day, I got to get them clarity to realize that what they're telling me ain't going to fly, right? Sometimes I put it back to them. So, well, I hear you. But, I talk to a lot of people every day. They kind of tell me the same thing, right? So, and sometimes I give them an example. Let's say you've got a FICO, in my industry, FICO analyst. It's just a name of a position title. If you got a FICO analyst position open, you're going to get probably 10, 15, 20 resumes. And they all say relatively the same thing. But in that group, there's one, maybe two that are really exceptional. How do you tell the difference? Because they all say they have demonstrated experience in blank, right? So again, I have to ask, what do you have? And I help them out. What about accomplishments? What about achievements? And this is where you can research screening for great NPCs. You're not going to NPC everybody, but maybe there's 1 in 20, 1 in 40, 1 in 50 that you think are really exceptional. And sometimes those great people don't necessarily know exactly what makes them so special. You gotta tease it out of them, right? And sometimes there's nothing to tease. But what you want to do is notice what we're doing here is this starts kind of cracking their facade open because they don't get this from recruiters. Now you be nice about it, be professional about it, but what you're doing makes sense. It really logically makes sense. I want to make sure I'm working the best. Are you the best, right? Now, regardless of what they say, this is kind of research transition, right? Put on the heels of it and get them thinking. This is a value you're providing to them. You're getting them, no one thinks about what the other party, what their experience is, right? You can have a hiring manager that looks at resumes all day long and says, they look all the same. Yet to themselves, they think they're special. They think, well, of course, I'm 20 years program management, but they don't think the hiring managers that look at them are also looking at the same thing, right? They don't really think that typically. So it's important to take part of that value. So usually at that point, I steer the conversation to their hiring record. Because look, at the end of the day, I really believe this. The litmus test for any leader is their ability to hire. I've been saying the same thing for years. Our ability to field a great team, regardless of economy, regardless of company, regardless of situation, whatever, the ability to attract talent, because the best attract the best. Game recognizes game, as they say, right? Steve Jobs, Jack Welch, all those other, all the great business leaders, had great ideas and great vision and all that, but they also knew how to build great teams. So let's talk about that, Bob. So what I want to talk about, let's look at your hiring record. Because obviously you go any company, they're going to want you to, possibly build a new team, bring in the best of the best, etc. So let's talk about your hiring record. So how do you describe that? Within your last, let's say, 10 hires, how many would you say were mishires, people that you wouldn't hire again? How many did it really well, etc. You could also ask things like, describe your hiring philosophy. Curious, what's your hiring philosophy? Right. Look, I'm curious. Have you ever identified a broken hiring process? Right. And here's where I kind of start the transition. You say, look, no one's perfect, right? No one has the best hiring record in the world. Even Jack Welch had a lot of mishires, right? Sometimes you can bat 300 and be considered a Hall of Fame hitter, yet only hitting the ball 30% of the time, right? So a lot of times it's a game of inches, right? So I'm curious, looking at your own hiring record here, like what are some of your biggest frustrations that you see? Like what can you really improve on, and what have you identified that you need to improve on? And you see where I'm going with this. I'm getting into kind of the inner workings of what's going on there. This is a discussion, and they'll tell you things that they would never tell any other recruiter because you are talking about it in the context of their career. Now, again, this is not a bait and switch. If you are not providing value, and if you can't help them in some way, or you can't potentially help them in some way, then don't do this. But if you can really dive in and get a sense of some of the pains that they feel, well, tell me more about that. As I tell you, maybe about a broken hiring process or things they're frustrated with. Tell me more about that. Really, how does that affect blank? So what's the impact of X? Really? And this is where you use your tonality. They're gonna feel it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I hear that often. Oh, yeah. Have you tried, I gotta say, have you tried this? Right? Maybe there's screening issues. Maybe they tend to, they hire people, and oftentimes they just don't work out. They don't have the skills they say they do. And you say, well, I'm not curious. Have you tried a working interview? What's that? Well, we do this all the time with our clients. We actually help them develop working interviews, because you can't lie in a working interview. It's very hard. And we help them design them specific to their environment. Hey, have you ever thought about that? Oh, interesting. Well, tell me more. And then of course, go on. Don't belabor the point, but throw in little things that you do. If you have an offer that you productize, which I talk about all the time, start throwing those little things in there. Have a conversation, a real conversation, because now you can have a real conversation more than you could have had not going this route, right? And really, to really transition out. Now, granted, there's a lot to go through in 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So believe me, this is not like a little snappy script, right? Because candidly, I'll be honest with you, of the people watching us right now, maybe 20% will develop any sort of proficiency with this, right? Maybe half will try it. Half will like, it sounds good, but it wouldn't work in my industry. It doesn't matter. When I started Accelerator, I had people all the time tell me, oh, which say makes sense, but it doesn't work in Australia, until I got my first Australian clients. It doesn't work in Asia. Asians are different, until I got my client in Singapore. Doesn't work in Europe, until I got my client in Paris, and then a client in things Denmark, and of course a bunch of UK. So believe me, it works. People are people. People are people. But you obviously fine tune it to your environment, fine tune it to your market, your culture, etc. But get a good sense of the issues that they find, and what's going to happen is you're going to get a couple things. One, they're going to open up a little more, and that's how you build a relationship. Two, you're going to provide a lot of value. You're going to provide some real clarity on what's going on and how their hiring record is affecting their career. Both how to market themselves, how to position themselves apart from all the 20 or 30 or 40 other people that they compete with for the same role. Also, how to think about, like, when they talk to a recruiter or hiring manager, or maybe a C-suite, and they're interviewing for that really cherry role. and you're talking to them, look, you really got to talk about your hiring record. That's really one of the most important things, the ability to track team and your hiring philosophy and how you mentor and bring people up and right? Now, and you're getting a great picture of some of their pains, because during this time you're transcribing the call or you're taking, copious notes. Hopefully you're recording it and you're thinking, and you're looking for those lines that you can use. Ooh, yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you're looking for those, I've got some of my best scripts that were written by, in essence, by the prospects themselves, right? Now, let me see if anybody has any questions here so far before I move on kind of the next phase, which is the actual kind of transition to a sales call. Okay. Or I guess not. So, so with that said, keep in mind, most people will look at this and say, at least half of them say, yeah, it makes sense, but I don't think that would work. It does. But there's people that will just go use a script because they want the Band-Aid, right? Another half will probably try it. They'll try it a couple times. It won't go very well. It doesn't go very well your first few times, believe me, right? Or not usually. And they'll say it doesn't work. But others will record it, analyze, record, analyze, record, analyze. We'll do it 20 times in a row and then make little tweaks, right? Because they recognize that you can't do one call and base their theory off a focus group of one, right? You need 20, 30 of these calls in a row. And then you can get a really good sense of, does this work or not? Or can I make it better? Make a couple tweaks. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should actually maybe transition a little earlier. Maybe I should spend more time on blank, less time on the other thing, right? So it's just a process you have to take. In fact, if anybody wants a process by which you can do this, go look at my LinkedIn profile. And in my LinkedIn profile, there's an article called, I believe it's called Practice Like the Samurai. And there's a very basic system for how the samurai practiced through skill training, through kind of like almost a scrimmage training, and how they developed the skill with the katana, right? So go read that article. It'll walk you through how to do it, okay? So transition is pretty easy, right? Because if you've been able to kind of highlight some of those pains and brought them to the fore, got them thinking about it, especially as it relates to their career, because those hiring pains directly affect their ability to achieve that dream, that whatever they want to achieve, right? And if you could simply just say, look, Bob, I got to tell you, and once you talk to them about what you do for them, and maybe you want to NPC them, maybe you want to just put them in your database, whatever it is, look, Bob, we had a great conversation here, and hopefully you've learned a lot. I certainly have about you. I'm framing, right? So hopefully you've learned a lot. You're basically putting that thought in their head that they've learned a lot. And I certainly have about you, right? Because you too, it's a mutual back and forth. But I got to say, this wasn't a sales call, obviously, but sounds like you may have some issues with pain 1, pain 2, pain 3. Now, I'm not saying I can promise I can help you. We're actually very good at what we do, but we're not right in every situation. Tell you what, let's book another call, a separate call, or we can dive a little bit more into that. And hey, look, you could pick my brain about what we do. And at the end of the call, we can decide if it makes sense to possibly, move forward. And if not, no big deal. I can always point you in the right direction. At the end of the day, my role here is to help you develop the best hiring process you possibly can, because that's going to directly affect your career, right? So anyway, with that said, do you have your calendar in front of you? Let's book that time. It's a soft close, right? Or you could simply do it even softer. Does it make sense to? Hey, it looks like you have this, you do the standard thing. Looks like you have this. I gotta say, we've both learned a lot. I've learned a lot from you, and hopefully learned some from me. Very productive. And we're going to do X, Y, Z, what we talked about, what we're going to do, right? But it looks like you've got some real issues with boom, 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 boom. And again, keep in mind, this is with their current company, or maybe this continuation. Like they need to fix this even at the next company they're at. So I have to ask, would it make sense to, so you can even do that. Now, we're very good at what we do. We're not right in every situation, right? But would it make sense to book a call and let you pick my brain about what we do? This is giving them control, right? This is right. This is, you know, we're gonna still do discovery call, but this is giving them a sense of control. And we're also letting them know that we're not gonna pitch them. We're not gonna do a hard pitch because we're not right in every situation. We're very good at what we do. You could pick my brain about what we do. And look, if I can help, great. I'll tell you exactly how I can. And if not, I'll make sure to point in the right direction. But regardless of that how the conversation goes, I'm still going to help you here, right? So again, lots of ways to skin the cat, but just make sure you're saying these things. You're not going to pitch. We're not right in every situation, right? And here's a big one. You can pick my brain about what we do. You're giving them a sense of control. Nobody wants to be pitched, right? But by this time, you demonstrated a metric shit ton of value and had a call. They've never really had it with your recruiter before, right? Most likely. And look, this is how you develop those relationships. Maybe you get work at that company that they're at. Maybe at the next company that they're at. But this is how they remember you, right? Do you ever have those conversations, maybe with a salesperson or let's call it a salesperson. Ever a conversation with a salesperson that, you know, we get approached by salespeople all the time. But you have that conversation with somebody who just kind of gets you. And you're like, God, there's like this connection. That's deep rapport. Rapport is not go local sports team, hope they draft that all-star player. It's just like, it's not real rapport. Real rapport is when you kind of get each other and you could tell somebody anything, what you don't tell other people. That's rapport. Well, they're talking to you about their career, dreams, likes, hopes, and you've kind of really cracked them open. This is how you can get a client for life because you've developed that really deep rapport. Now, you have to continue showing value, etc. But this is how, if you have a real, true productized offer that's really different than what they've ever done before, this allows you to start a point. But this is important. It's not a bait and switch. If you go, hey, do you guys use your recruiters there at your company? That's a bait and switch. If you try to combine the two calls, you start off calling about their resume or doing a leadership call, and then you try to do the sales call right then on the spot. That's bait and switch, or at least they'll see it as such, right? If you don't provide any value, giving them tips on how to optimize your LinkedIn profile to get noticed, giving them advice on how to kind of really position themselves, right? Getting them clarity on maybe what they tell people and why they're so great doesn't work because everybody else is the exact same goddamn thing, right? When everybody else, again, that's why when a recruiter says, well, you know, I'm a specialist and we have 10 years experience in the business, we're really passionate about da. Remember, you're doing the same thing as those candidates, saying the same thing that everybody else says because it's the expected thing to say, but it's not how you get noticed, right? That's just a flock full of sheep that are indistinguishable from each other, as opposed to that one wolf that stands out that says, no, I don't play that. Here's why specifically why I am the best of the best of the best. That's what gets them noticed. And so sometimes you really have to be not harsh about it, but you want to bring that harsh clarity to them. And that's a huge value, a really big value. Because then what it does, it gives them the opportunity to change. They may not take that change. That's fine. But at the very least, it gives them a door in front of them to walk through. Do they really rethink how they position themselves, especially in today's market? Now remember, a lot of time, these people are coming from a situation where they're getting calls from recruiters all day long about jobs. In fact, it's so much so where they would complain on LinkedIn about recruiters, these big, long diatribes. How many of those have you seen nowadays? Maybe about salespeople, but do you see the same thing about recruiters? Probably not. I don't. Isn't that weird? Because the jobs aren't there. They're not getting all the calls anymore, right? And so they're wondering, like, so the strategy they used before is not the strategy they need to move forward with. You are the one who's going to get them to pivot on that in that call. And by doing so, you're going to set yourself up for the flip and not be super cheesy and clunky and a bait and switch, type recruiter. Okay. The one thing I also say about this, it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy to develop a skill. That's why, giving you one script is not like the end all be all, right? In addition, it just takes practice. It takes some nuance, and you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. You have to be willing to stay in the pocket, meaning ask the tough question. So Why did you take the time to book the call with me? What are you looking to accomplish today? Silent. You gotta stay in the pocket. You feel the pressure. It's uncomfortable. You're like, oh, is he going to hang up? Is it going to be offended? Quiet, quiet, quiet. They'll answer. May not give you a good answer. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Who knows? But you've cracked them over a little bit. And then go forward. And don't ask every zinger like that, but at certain times, you're going to get a feel for it. And the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more you're going to be in the pocket. Like, I don't know, Tom Brady, he's throwing a touchdown pass, and he's got the 350-pound linebacker with a thick neck just breathing down. And he's like right here, but he's like so in the zone, he's in the pocket. That's what makes him a champion, right? This is going to make you a champion. Stay in the pocket. Really practice that. The ability to stay in the pocket and keep your composure and follow the plan. Make sure you hit your waypoints. Maybe 12 minutes. I want to be hitting, talk about what makes them special, right? Maybe, 18 minutes, 20 minutes, talk about their hiring record or whatever it is. It's not going to be an exact science, but have waypoints that you're hitting. Boom, boom, boom. Hit the waypoints. Do a soft close. Book the next call. Believe me, you'll develop relationships that you never would have been able to develop otherwise. That is the secret sauce. And that, my friends, is a leadership call. Let me see if I have any questions here in the chat box. Let's see. Max says, are those 3 boom, boom, booms necessarily about their hiring record or process? Okay, so Max Maiden says, are the boom, boom, booms about the hiring process? Yeah, so basically you want to transition to, first the shot across the bow. What are you looking to accomplish? Or, why did you book a call? Whatever. Then you go your normal questioning. So your first, I guess, like pivot in a sense is talking about this. We're going to put them on their heels a little bit. After you ask a couple of zingers, to about your leadership philosophy, tell me about, some good questions. Then, what makes you special? Not that you would say just like that, right? But that I'm paraphrasing, right? You transition, look, as a headhunter for 20 years, I get that. Look, you had a position open, you get 20 resumes, but there's a bit of a bell curve, right? I use the bell curve talk. And then you transition and what makes them so special, right? So that's the first really pivot. Second pivot is the pivot to the hiring record, right? And then dive into that. And then, of course, then it's a bit more free form. You're really trying to fit. It's really by then you're having a much more of a less scripted conversation and a more real natural conversation, but within a framework. That's why framework's really important. And then, of course, the close. Make sure you close. And a good rule of thumb, if you really want to get good at this, make it a game. If you don't close on every call or attempt to close, and this is kind of crazy, if you do not attempt to call and you got the phone, you realize, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. You then have to call them back and apologize for not closing. For doing them the disservice of not closing. Why? Because you've not given them the opportunity to remember, you have the solution. You got the keys to the kingdom. If they told you their major problems and you have the solution and you say, but you withhold it from them, what are you doing? You're doing them a disservice. So, and again, I don't recommend it necessarily do it all the time, but if you really want to make it a fun game for yourself and really force yourself to do it every single time, and anytime you don't and you knew you were supposed to, promise yourself, I have to call back immediately and apologize for doing them the disservice of not closing them or not, whatever, right? Again, the threat, you probably won't ever have to do that, but the thought of it is going to make you take a right action. It's a right action. Take it the right, even if you don't do it well, take the right action. Eventually you will do it well. That's the thing. Let me see if there's any other questions here. What if they say, nah, HR calls the shots here? Actually, here's what they really say. Nah, son, HR calls the shots. You see? That's what I envision when Jim says, nah, son, HR, you see? Okay, so you may get that you get that often, right? Here's what we're looking to do. If you do this call well, really well, you'll get very little of that, right? Because again, you're not trying to get them to get into a contract. Now, sometimes there's, some pretty HR strict rules, but here's the thing. You've just talked to them about their hopes and dreams and needs and their resume, and they're looking, one of the last things they will do is direct you to their HR department, first off, right? Secondly, if you position yourself as, look, this isn't me trying to get your business, I don't really care about that. There may be some really fundamental things that you're not doing well that you need to be doing well to help your career. So let's talk about that. And look, I might be able to help, I might not. In a conversation like that, you really tend to very rarely get that HR objection, especially if you do this really well. One of the biggest things that get you those sorts of smoke screen objections, now sometimes the objection is real, right? But again, that's why we're not couching it as, hey, I'm trying to get your business right now, because that's going to elicit that objection. But sometimes you get the objection when you're making calls just in general because it's a smokescreen. And the reason why is because your reality is weak. And it's kind of hard. It's kind of weird for me to say. But if you come in and do the standard thing, glad hand them, tell them what they want to hear. Oh, sounds great. Well, so you're looking for this kind of money? Excellent. Well, if I get opportunities like that, I'll definitely give you a call. Hey, by the way, golly gee willikers, Bob, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, because it sounds like you work for a great company anyway. Do you guys use your recruiters there? I didn't even realize, but maybe you guys do. Gee. Talk to HR. Now, granted, that's a paraphrase, right? I'm exaggerating for effect. But if you come in and you got a strong reality, right? You've asked on a peer level, you've put them on their heels. You've asked what are you looking to accomplish here? And you've really taught them something. You've clarified things for them, and you've really kind of cracked them open. That means you got a strong ass reality, son, and you're not going to get the, nah, son, you got to talk to HR. You see, you're not going to get that as a smoking objection, because that's kind of like if you're a girl at a bar. I always use this example. I hate doing this because I tend to repeat myself, but it really is the best example. If you're an attractive woman at a bar and you're going to hit on all night long, and it's just incessant, you're just like, oh my God, like, I want to hang out with my girlfriends, please. What the hell? Stop. You're just like, got a boyfriend, busy, or you're doing the ignore thing, just ignoring what they say with my girlfriends, hoping they just go away, because it's a defense mechanism. A lot of times the HR objection is a defense mechanism. So I always teach, that if George Clooney walks in, those smoke screen objections tend to go away pretty quickly. But let's say you're not George Clooney. That's cool, right? But if you are confident, attractive, self-assured, not using cheesy lines, you don't need her. You're just there, and you're being social, and you just have that value, right? You exude that value of a strong reality. It tends to attract people to you, right? And people want to be around that. And that's kind of the idea. What we're doing here is we're having just like a strong reality, and so you tend not to get that. So hopefully that answered your question. Max says that's a lot clearer where the pivots are. Okay, awesome. All right, guys, that is about that. I'm gonna go here because it's time for me to eat my dinner. Now, I will say this. This is the couple updates. Two things. We have a new show tomorrow with Neil Lebovitz and I called Headhunters and Boxers Talking Shit was the original name, and now we're gonna do Talking Smack because we're professional. So that's tomorrow at noon. It's unscripted. We don't know what we're gonna talk about, but we're gonna see. It's gonna be a lot of banter back and forth. We're gonna do a couple shows on our own, then maybe we do guests then, and that if it works out, every Friday at noon Eastern. Also, secondly, if anybody here is interested in Accelerator, reach out to me. I haven't put out an official page yet. I have not really marketed the thing, but I've got something special going on with Accelerator. If you're interested in Accelerator, which is my done with you program, or Tactical, which is my done for you program, two different programs, let me know and contact me, and we will set a time we can talk. And with that being said, folks, I love you all. Keep calm and carry on. Bill, also Bill, a Tactical client and an Accelerator client. All right, guys, I love you all. Peace out. Bye. Hey, thank you for watching the Thrive Daily video series. for recruiters and how to pivot your business so you can survive and thrive during this recession. Make sure you subscribe, sign up at thrivedaily.io, and as always, recruiters, happy hunting. Oh.